When a millionaire and his glamorous girlfriend walked to the park that day, they had no idea their lives were about to change forever. But then she froze in her tracks. Her voice trembled as she pointed at the child and whispered, "He looks like your dead son." The millionaire's heart stopped. Could it be? Was fate playing a cruel trick? Or had it just handed him a second chance? Welcome back, dear friends. And if this is your first time here, you just found a home of unforgettable, emotional, real-life inspired stories that will stay with you long after the video ends. Today's story is one of grief, mystery, and hope. A man who thought he had lost everything suddenly sees the impossible in the eyes of a homeless child. But what happens after that moment will shock you, inspire you, and maybe even bring you to tears. Hit the like button if you believe in second chances. Subscribe and turn on notifications, because we have more life-changing stories you won't want to miss. Tell us in the comments, what would you do if a stranger's child looked exactly like someone you lost? And don't forget to share this video. You never know who might need to hear this story today. Stay with me until the very end, because what this millionaire discovers about that boy will turn everything you thought you knew upside down. Let's begin. A millionaire intentionally drops his wallet stuffed with cash right in the middle of the sidewalk just to test a little homeless boy who had been begging nearby. But when the boy picks it up and does something completely unexpected, the man falls to his knees, crying like a child. Andrew, a millionaire known throughout the city, not only for his wealth, but also for his generous heart, was calmly driving his luxury car through the busy streets. The traffic light ahead turned red, and he came to a stop. Not even a second later, a rapid tapping echoed on the driver's side window. Surprised, he turned his head and found himself face to face with a homeless man. The young man looked like he had been shaped by misery itself. His clothes were torn and filthy, and the arm he raised was as thin as a brittle stick. The man extended his hand, a silent and clear gesture. He was asking for money. Andrew didn't hesitate for a second. With a simple press of a button on the dashboard, the window slid down smoothly. He pulled a $100 bill from his wallet and handed it to the homeless man with ease. The man took the money with a smile that seemed to light up his face. Worn down by time and poverty, his eyes sparkling with emotion in his voice, he exclaimed, "Thank you so much, sir. Really, you just saved my day. I'll be able to buy milk for my son." The millionaire returned the smile kindly, gave a slight nod, and seeing the light had turned green, gently accelerated and returned to the flow of traffic. But in the passenger seat, his wife Emily wore a look of clear discomfort. "What is it, Emily?" he asked, glancing briefly in her direction before focusing back on the road. She didn't hide her displeasure as she replied, "Are you seriously asking this habit of yours, helping everyone, handing out money to these people? When are you going to understand that people live on the streets because they choose to?" Andrew took a deep breath and answered firmly, "My love, I don't believe anyone chooses to live on the streets." But Emily wasn't ready to back down. "You know what I mean, Andrew. These people are there because of the choices they made. They're just living with the consequences. You need to stop handing out money to every stranger who walks by. Do you really think that beggar's going to buy milk? Oh, please. He's probably buying booze." She paused, took a breath, and continued in the same harsh tone. "And another thing, do you know how dangerous things are these days? What's the point of having bulletproof windows if you roll them down for first bum who shows up? I'm thinking about our safety. One of these days, someone's going to stick a gun in here, and I want to see what you'll do then." Andrew kept his tone calm but firm. "I don't agree with you. There are criminals everywhere, even wearing suits and ties. Just because someone's homeless doesn't mean they're a criminal. Honesty doesn't belong to a social class. Honestly, I believe there are more decent people at the bottom than at the top." The car kept moving as the two continued their discussion until Andrew parked in front of a high-end handbag store. Emily had ordered a new item for her collection, and it was time to pick it up. As she got out of the car, Her eyes scanned the sidewalk. That's when she noticed something unusual. Sitting on a piece of cardboard was a street boy. He looked to be around 10 years old. He wore simple, dirty clothes and a pair of sunglasses far too large for his small face. But what caught her attention the most was the exact moment. He quickly bent down and picked up a small coin that had fallen between the rushed feet of passing strangers. He slipped it into his pocket like he had just found treasure. Emily watched carefully. Something stirred inside her. A few minutes later, she came out of the store holding her new handbag and returned to the car. As she sat back beside her husband, she stopped him from starting the engine. "Wait, I want to do something." Andrew raised his eyebrows, surprised. "Go to buy something else?" She shook her head slightly. "No. In this part of town, that was the only store I liked. But that's not it. I want to propose a bet." He furrowed his brow, clearly intrigued. "What kind of bet, Emily?" She crossed her arms and replied, her eyes calculated. "This thing you have trying to help everyone, especially people you don't even know. It bothers me. I'm not saying it's wrong to help honey, but it's dangerous. Since you're so sure that all these homeless people are honest, I want to put to the test." Emily then pointed discreetly to the end of the street. "Do you see that street kid over there on the corner?" Andrew followed her gaze and nodded. "Yes, I see him." She then explained her plan, speaking with the certainty of someone who already believed she knew the outcome. "Take your wallet. Leave out your documents, of course, but put some money inside. Then walk by quickly and drop it near the boy just to see what he does." Andrew gave a half smile, beginning to understand where she was going with this. "You want to test the boy's honesty? Is that it?" "Exactly," she said confidently. "It can be any homeless guy if you prefer. If he returns a wallet, I'll personally give him a generous reward. And more than that, I'll never bother you about this again. But if he disappears with the wallet, then you'll stop this habit of handing money to strangers. You can keep donating to charities, but rolling down the car window to hand out cash on the street. That ends today. You'll finally see that there's no such thing as an honest beggar." Silence hung in the air for a few seconds inside the luxurious car until Andrew gently reached for his wife's hand and declared firmly, "Deal, but you'll be the one surprised to find honesty where you least expect it. Emily, you'll eat your words." She raised an eyebrow with irony and replied without hesitation, "I highly doubt it." Without saying anything else, the millionaire turned his eyes back toward the boy, sitting at the corner of the sidewalk just a few meters away. He took out his leather wallet, opened it carefully, and removed all his personal documents and credit cards. He left only about $1,000 in folded bills, closed the wallet again, and prepared to leave the car. Emily, arms crossed, made a venomous remark. "That kid's about to hit the jackpot. He'll steal all your money, but at least you'll learn that these people are all scammers. They're on the streets because they belong there." The millionaire didn't respond. He simply stepped out of the car with firm steps, holding the wallet discreetly in one hand. He walked toward the boy who was still there, head bowed and hand outstretched. Without stopping and without even making eye contact, the businessman walked past, and at the exact moment he passed the boy, let the wallet drop on purpose, as if by accident. From the passenger seat, Emily watched everything with complete focus. With her phone in hand, she began recording. The shot perfectly captured the boy sitting there, sunglasses on, legs crossed over a piece of cardboard. She recorded the exact moment he noticed the object on the ground, stretched out his hand, and picked up the wallet with surprising speed. The boy shook his head quickly as if confused and slipped his hand into the wallet. Feeling the thick wad of bills, he discreetly moved his hand to the pocket of his worn-out shorts and tucked the money away without drawing attention. Meanwhile, Andrew walked slowly, with every step hope consumed. Him, he believed. He glanced subtly over his shoulder, but the boy was still there, unmoving, still sitting in the same corner, handed out to passers-by as if nothing had happened, the businessman took a deep breath, a strange heaviness in his chest. He turned around and returned to the car in silence. As soon as he sat down, Emily, wearing a smug smile, began. Told you there's no honesty in people like that? Sweetheart, just look. She turned the phone screen toward him and hit play. The footage showed everything clearly. The wallet falling, the boy picking it up, rummaging through it, noticing the money, and putting everything in his pocket. He robbed you, saw the cash and hid the wallet, so no one would look for it. These beggars are worthless. That's why they're in that life. You can't even trust a child. Sweetheart, I warned you, she said, her tone dripping with superiority. Andrew stared at the screen for a moment. Then he pulled the phone away and let out a long, deep sigh, visibly disappointed. Yeah, maybe you're right, love. Maybe I shouldn't trust people so easily. Emily took his hand and spoke softly. But you can trust me. I only ever want what's best for you, my love. Right after that, she reached for the car door handle, ready to get out. Andrew, puzzled by the gesture, asked, "Where are you going?" Without hesitation, she said, "I'm going to get your wallet back." Obviously, there was $1,000 in there. That kid doesn't deserve a single dime. I'll get it back. But the millionaire grabbed her hand firmly, stopping her from getting out. No, let him keep it. We're not going to cause a scene over that money. Besides, I took out my documents and credit cards. There's nothing important in it. Just let the boy have it. Let's go. Emily frowned, clearly upset, but didn't insist. She leaned back in her seat, and in silence, the couple drove back to the mansion where they lived. Neither of them realized that this simple test was about to change their lives forever. But first, we need to go back a bit in time. Hours before the test, as the sun began to rise and the city slowly came to life, Ethan, a small homeless boy, was lying on a cold piece of cardboard on a concrete sidewalk. Still half asleep, he was suddenly hit in the face by a blast of ice-cold water. He coughed, flailed, and sat up in shock. "What's going on?" the boy asked, still trying to understand what had woken him. A harsh-faced man, owner of a nearby shop, responded with brutality. "What's going on, you little pest? Is that if I catch you sleeping in front of my store again, I'll toss you in the garbage truck. Now scram, filthy brat." Ethan felt around the ground with his hands, desperately trying to find his few belongings. He searched until he found his thin backpack, his oversized sunglasses, and the old broomstick he used as a cane. As he gathered his things, he said in a trembling voice, "I'm sorry, sir. I'm visually impaired. I didn't realize I was in front of your store." The man stepped closer, yelling, "Cut the excuses, kid. Get lost and don't come back here again." The boy, hands shaking, put on his sunglasses, gripped the broomstick tightly, and began walking quickly, guided by sound, memory, and the rhythm of passing footsteps. Along the way, he accidentally bumped into a well-dressed woman who recoiled in disgust. "Watch where you're going, filthy little brat." Ethan, in a low voice, replied, "I'm sorry, I can't see well." But the woman showed no compassion. "Oh, spare me the lies, you little fraud," she snapped, walking away in disgust. Ethan continued walking along the sidewalk, brushing against the walls of buildings and homes, searching for shelter among the cold concrete of the city. He walked slowly, cautiously, with the broomstick extended like both shield and guide. His feet ached, and his stomach growled loudly in constant protest. He had barely eaten the day before and probably wouldn't eat much that day either. "I hope I get just a little bit of luck today," he whispered to himself, trying to hold on to hope. After a long walk, he found a quiet spot on the street, far from store entrances, but still where plenty of people passed by. No one would kick him out there. He arranged his cardboard, which he always carried, and sat down. The concrete was warm from the sun, but it was better than being kicked again. The first passers-by hurried by, ignoring everything around them. Ethan extended his hand, his voice low. almost a whisper amid the noise of the city. "Please, just a coin, please." To most people, he was invisible. But Ethan was used to that. He had never known what a home was. He had no last name. The street had always been his only address. His first breath had been taken inside a dumpster where he had been left as a baby. A homeless woman found him that cold morning and was shocked. "My God, who would abandon a baby like this?" she had said at the time, picking up the newborn in her arms. She quickly understood the reason for the abandonment. The baby had a milky white film over both eyes, an opaque layer covering his irises completely. There was no doubt Ethan was blind. Still, she raised him with the little she had. She did the impossible to feed him, protect him, and keep him warm during the coldest nights. But life on the streets takes its toll, and the woman passed away far too soon. Ethan was left alone. Other homeless people tried to take him in for a while, but one by one they disappeared. Hunger, illness, the cold. The streets are unforgiving, but Ethan survived. Maybe out of strength, maybe out of pure miracle. At 10 years old, he was a survivor, a boy who saw the world, only in blurs, but who felt every rejection with painful clarity. That day, sitting on his piece of cardboard, the boy had managed to collect only 3 10-cent coins. He knew it wouldn't even be enough for half a piece of old dry bread. Still, he kept his hand outstretched, seeing only shadows pass in front of him. "Please, just a coin. I'm really hungry," he murmured again, his voice shaky. No one stopped. No one looked. The sun was already high, and the sidewalk was burning hot. Ethan felt exhausted. People carried on with their lives, too, busy to notice the invisible boy sitting on the ground. With his eyes hidden behind his old sunglasses, he began to speak to himself in a low voice. "How long will this go on? Am I going to starve like my friends? God, why can't I see? If I could just see a little, I could work, do something. Should I just give up?" A warm tear rolled down his cheek. Ethan took off his glasses to wipe it away, but it was useless. More tears followed, soaking his face. The words came out, painfully, choked between sobs. "My God, why does it have to be this way? I just wanted so badly to see. I wanted a home, a family, something to eat." He cried in silence. The city continued to ignore his pain. He cried not just from hunger, but from everything. For everyone he had lost, for everyone who had treated him like garbage, for all the nights when the cold felt stronger than hope. Then he took a deep breath, put his glasses back on, and murmured with quiet determination, "I have to stay strong. One day I'll get out of this." At that very moment, a different sound broke the monotony. It wasn't rushed footsteps or honking or distant voices. It was the sound of something falling to the ground nearby, a heavier object muffled by the impact on the cement. Ethan turned his head slightly toward the noise. "What was that?" he whispered as he began to feel around the ground with his hands. His fingers touched a rectangular object, leather. He held it carefully, trying to figure it out. This is a wallet," he murmured, startled. Cautiously, he opened the flap and ran his fingertips over what was inside. Folded papers. No, not just papers. It was money. A lot of money. And it's just full of money. For a moment, his mind was flooded with images. A hot plate of rice and beans. A new blanket. A pair of shoes. A warm cover for the cold nights. A new pair of glasses to ease the pain in his sensitive eyes. This could be his chance to live decently for a few weeks, to eat real food, to sleep without shivering, maybe even buy something better to help him walk. But the thought lasted only a few seconds. Ethan closed the wallet and, without hesitation, slipped it into his pocket, but not to steal it. "This money isn't mine. I have to find the owner. There must be some card, ID, or a phone number in here. I'll find them. I can't spend what doesn't belong to me." Ethan stayed in the same spot on the sidewalk, the wallet still tucked carefully inside the pocket of his worn out shorts. He thought carefully about every step he should take. From experience, he knew he couldn't just stand up and start asking around who had lost it. He had been tricked before. He remembered the last time vividly. A man claimed to be the owner of a bill Ethan had found, then simply snatched it from his hand and disappeared into the crowd. No, he wouldn't make that mistake again. Better to stay here, quiet, he whispered to himself, keeping his hand out as if nothing had happened. He would continue begging, waiting for someone to show up, looking for a lost wallet. If no one came, maybe some document inside would help him decide what to do. Time passed slowly. The boy listened carefully, trying to catch any unusual sound, any voice searching for something lost, any keyword. But nothing. No one approached. No one mentioned a wallet. Time slipped by like sand between his fingers, and the sun gradually disappeared from the sky. It was late afternoon when Ethan finally decided to get up. He gathered his few belongings, his backpack as light as the wind, the broomstick that helped him walk, and his thoughts. He walked slowly, catching the delicious smell of food drifting from nearby restaurants. His stomach responded instantly, growling loudly. He paused for a moment, reached into his pocket, and pulled out the few coins he had collected that day. He counted them one by one. 30, 50, 80, not even a full dollar. Then his hand brushed against the other pocket. The wallet was still there, heavy, full of real bills. Just one note, just one, would be enough for a hot meal. Rice, beans, a piece of meat, a proper dinner. But the thought vanished almost instantly. No, whoever lost his wallet must really need it. And I'm not a thief, he whispered firmly to himself. Without a second thought, he walked to a simple fruit stand on the sidewalk. An older man was there selling overripe fruit, spotted bananas, bruised apples, but still edible. Ethan approached carefully and held out the coins in his hand, without lifting his head too much. Excuse me, would this be enough for a banana and an apple? Sir? The vendor looked him up and down, showing no sympathy. He grabbed a blackened banana and a soft apple, tossing them into the boy's hands, without even trying to hide his disdain. Take it now. Get out of here before you scare away my customers. Go. Ethan held the fruit carefully and replied in a small voice, Okay, I'm leaving. And yet he smiled. A simple smile, barely noticeable, but sincere. Well, at least I won't go to sleep hungry. Maybe tomorrow I'll have better luck, he murmured, walking away. He walked a few more meters until he found a little spot hidden between two walls. There, alone, he sat down and ate his fruit. It was enough to calm his hunger, even if it didn't truly satisfy him. Feeling a bit calmer, he pulled the wallet back out. No strange movements around him, no sudden shadows, just a quiet hum of distant honking and muffled voices. There has to be some document here, something that can help me find the owner of this wallet, he said, opening it with his small, calloused hands. But the more he searched, the more he found. Only money, bill after bill folded carefully. No ID, no card, no name. Who carries no ID at all? He wondered, frowning. Then his fingers touched something different. A thicker piece of paper, rectangular, smooth along the edges. A card. Ethan ran his fingertips over it carefully, trying to figure out what it was. What could this be? That piece of paper might be his only clue. He knew he wouldn't be able to read what it said. He thought, reflected, and then made a decision. He walked back toward the fruit stand. He waited a moment, listening to the sound of footsteps and voices. When he noticed the movement had died down, he cautiously approached. The man looked up and grumbled right away. You again, kid? Ethan, heart pounding, explained sincerely. I'm sorry. I know you asked me to leave, but I need a favor, and you're the only one I know around here. He held out the card between his fingers. Can you see if something is written here? A name, address, phone number? The man took the card impatiently and read it, frowning. Well, it's a business card from some fancy place, Law Office of Andrew Mitchell. Yeah, there's an address, 72, Flower Street, downtown. He paused and looked at the boy, curious. I've heard of that office. One of the most well-known in the country. Where did you find this card? Ethan didn't want to complicate things. He simply shook his head and said, Oh, it was on the ground. Thank you very much, sir. He nodded politely and walked away a little faster this time. As he walked, the man's words echoed in his mind, like something he needed to memorize. Law Office of Andrew Mitchell, 72, Flower Street. I wonder if I go to that address, will I find the wallet's owner? He thought, and just like that, Ethan decided the next day he would try. After all, it was close to downtown. This would be his mission, and he didn't have many missions in life other than surviving. It's going to be hard, but I can do it. Maybe, just maybe, if I return it, the owner will give me a plate of food. That alone would make it worth it. That cold night, Ethan laid down once, again on the thin piece of cardboard he used as a bed in the same quiet corner of the street. He curled up, arms wrapped around his own body, the wind cutting into his skin and the darkness his only companion. He held the wallet, close like someone holding a treasure, not for its value, but for the weight of the responsibility it carried. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, in a luxurious mansion, dinner was being served with silver cutlery and porcelain plates. In the large dining room, illuminated by a sparkling chandelier, Andrew sat with his head low. Mrs. Margaret, Emily's mother, quickly noticed the mood and asked with a tone of concern, What's wrong, Andrew? You seem down. Tonight, did something happen at the firm? But before the millionaire could answer, Emily jumped in with disdain. No, Mom, nothing happened at the firm. What happened is that Andrew and I made a bet and he lost. Mrs. Margaret raised her eyebrows. Curious. A bet? What kind of bet? Emily then told the whole story, detailing the plan and how the street boy hadn't returned the wallet. At the end of her tale, the woman, carrying deeply rooted prejudice, commented with conviction, Oh, so that's why you're like this? Andrew, it's about time you realize those beggars and panhandlers are worthless. Andrew shook his head as if it pained him to hear it. I still think it was a one-time thing. And besides, who knows what the boy was going through when he didn't return the wallet? You just never know. But Emily cut off his doubt immediately. Don't even try to back out of the bed. Love, I showed you those people aren't trustworthy. He simply sighed and returned to eating. In silence, after dinner, he went to the bedroom, isolating himself with his thoughts. Before following him, Emily remained alone with her mother, who reinforced her opinion. You're absolutely right, my daughter. Just like you changed, stop being naive. Your husband needs to change. 2, we're part of the elite now, and we can't mix with just anyone. A little while later, Emily entered the bedroom. Andrew looked at her and for a few seconds hesitated. Then he asked, his voice firm and direct, When did you become so cold, Emily? She crossed her arms and replied with pride, I'm not cold. I'm just practical, and I do what's right. I'm not overly nice to everyone anymore, and I'm not going to help people who don't deserve it. But let's drop this subject. Let's Andrew answer dryly. They both lay down. Emily fell asleep quickly, but Andrew stayed wide awake, staring at the ceiling. The image of the boy wouldn't leave his mind. There was something about that kid, something that touched him deeply, and he still didn't understand why. Hours passed, while the people in the mansion still slept in the comfort of wealth in another part of the city. Ethan was waking up to the first sounds of morning, honking bus engines, hurried footsteps. He stretched with difficulty, gathered his few belongings, and stood up, guided by his old broomstick. All right, today I'm going downtown to see if I can find the owner of this wallet. There's a lot of money inside. Someone must really need it, he told himself, determined. He walked slowly, stopping to ask strangers for directions. Most ignored him, but occasionally someone gave him a quick, dry answer. Go that way, kid, some muttered. Even so, he pressed on. After a long time walking slow steps, dodging obstacles, guided only by shadows and sounds, he finally reached the center of the city. There he asked for 72 Flower Street. He insisted, walked a bit farther, stumbled on uneven sidewalks, slipped off the curb, but after several long minutes of effort, someone pointed to a tall mirrored building with a large plaque at the entrance. That was the place. This is it. The owner of the wallet must work here, Ethan whispered, panting. He took a deep breath and stepped bravely inside. As soon as he crossed the doorway, his dirty feet on polished floors, his rags clashing with the elegant space, a security guard spotted him and widened, his eyes in shock. What's that filthy kid doing in here? He's gonna scare off all the clients, the guard shouted, already moving forward. Ethan barely had time to react. He felt strong arms grab him roughly. Get out of here now, the guard yelled. Wait, I just came to return something. The boy tried to explain, frightened. The man scoffed with contempt. What could a filthy beggar like you possibly have to return? Get out of here now or I'll have to use force. Ethan tried to resist, tried to explain, but the security guard started dragging him toward the door. In the scuffle, his glasses slipped and fell to the ground. Wait, my glasses. I need my glasses. The guard looked down at the object on the floor and without hesitation stomped on it, shattering the lenses. It was exactly at that moment that Andrew and Emily arrived at the building's reception area. Upon seeing the scene, Emily stepped forward, bothered by the commotion. What's going on here? The guard, trying to remain professional, replied. This street kid was trying to sneak into the office, probably to steal something, but I'm already taking care of it, Mrs. Emily. Emily didn't even hesitate. Well, what are you waiting for? Get that boy out of here. But before the man could act again, Ethan, eyes already welling with tears, cried out in desperation. No, wait. I wasn't going to steal anything. I just came to return something I found. I need my glasses. I can't leave without them. His voice echoed through the grand lobby of the building like a cry that cut through the uncomfortable silence of that elegant environment. Andrew, who had been watching the scene frozen, suddenly snapped out of it as if hit by a jolt. Let the boy go, he ordered firmly, his deep voice reverberating through the room. Emily tried to intervene, surprised by her husband's tone. But darling, he turned to her with a serious look and replied, leaving no room for discussion. No, but Emily, for God's sake, what harm could a kid like this possibly do? To anyone? We're in a law firm, one of the most respected in the country. We should know better than to treat someone like this, no matter who they are. Now, let him go. Security. The guard hesitated for a second, but eventually released Ethan, though reluctantly. The boy, still shaken, dropped to his knees and began frantically feeling the smooth floor for something. His fingers quickly found the remains of his glasses shattered right there. He picked up the broken pieces with trembling hands and teary eyes. The pain wasn't just from the humiliation or the scare, but from losing something vital to his survival. My glasses, they're broken. What am I going to do now? He murmured through sobs, hugging the shards as if trying to piece them back together. The guard, arms crossed, looked away and muttered coldly, You shouldn't have dropped them. Not my fault. Andrew couldn't bear to watch any longer. He knelt beside the boy and spoke with genuine empathy. I'll buy you a new pair of glasses. But before Ethan could even react, Emily cut in. Andrew, what about the deal we made? He didn't hesitate for a second. I don't care what we agreed on. His glasses broke inside our company, and we're going to take responsibility. At that moment, Ethan raised his face, for the first time turning toward Andrew's voice. The millionaire, seeing him up close, froze. A chill ran down his spine. He recognized the boy. It was him, the same boy from the day before. And now, face to face, he could see clearly, the cloudy, dull eyes covered by the white haze of blindness. Emily recognized him, too. Her expression shifted from shock to disbelief. No, it can't be, she murmured, nearly breathless. That's when Ethan reached into his pocket and pulled out a wallet. He held it out to Andrew with humility, his voice thick with emotion. I didn't want to steal anything, sir. I swear I just wanted to return this wallet. Someone dropped it near me yesterday, but since I can barely see, just shadows, I didn't see who it was. I kept it, hoping someone would come looking for it. When no one did, I tried to find some ID. I found a card with the name and address of this place. I asked a man to read it for me, and I came here to return it. This wallet belongs to someone here, and it's full of money. I figured the person must need it. I swear I'm not a thief, and I didn't want to cause any trouble. I just wanted to return it. Andrew stood there for several seconds, staring at the wallet as if it was something sacred. He took it from the boy's hands, which were still trembling, and opened it. The money was still there, every single bill, exactly as he had left it. Emily stepped forward as well and looked inside the wallet. Her eyes widened. No way. I can't believe it, she murmured. Andrew looked into the boy's eyes, and his voice heavy with emotion said, "This wallet is mine. Thank you so much for finding it and holding on to it for me." Then he took all the bills from inside the wallet and extended them toward the boy with a grateful smile, as a reward for your honesty. But Ethan took a step back and shook his head. You don't have to. Really, you don't. I just wanted a plate of food. If you could give me that, and then I really need to fix my glasses. I can't be out in the sun without them. Just a cheap pair. If you would help me with that, I'd be forever grateful. For a moment, silence filled the room. Then, unexpectedly, Emily took a step forward. Her expression, once harsh, seemed to soften. She looked at the boy with a new gaze, maybe for the first time, truly seeing him. Leave it to me, love. I'll buy him a good pair of glasses myself and something to eat. Andrew looked at his wife in surprise, but instead of replying with words, he just smiled. Not the smile of someone who would want to bet, but of someone who had witnessed something greater, the beginning of a change in his wife's heart. Emily sighed and turned to Ethan. But first, before we buy anything or go get food, you need a bath, young man. Then she turned to the security guard, still standing near the door, and gave a firm order. Go get the boy some clothes. There's a store just next door. Yes, ma'am. The man replied, quickly heading out. Shortly after, Ethan was completely transformed. He had bathed with Emily's help and was now finishing getting dressed in a clean new outfit. His hair was combed, his face clean, and for the first time in a very long time, he felt different, not through his eyes, but through a newfound sense of dignity. They're much better now, said Emily, adjusting the boy's shirt collar. Ethan smiled shyly. I don't even know how to thank you. Andrew, who stood nearby, responded calmly, you don't have to thank us. Their brief exchange was suddenly interrupted by a loud, unexpected noise, a growl. It was Ethan's stomach. He placed his hands on his belly and looked embarrassed. Sorry, it's just that it's been a really long time since I had a proper meal. Andrew stepped closer and placed a gentle hand on the boy's shoulder. Well, today you're going to eat as much as you want. Are you serious? Ethan asked with a smile so spontaneous that even he was surprised. It was a light smile, full of hope, and he couldn't even remember the last time something like it had appeared on his face. Emily, gently touching the boy's shoulder, nodded with a soft, almost motherly gesture. Yes, I'm serious. You can eat whatever you want. At that moment, Andrew was watching his wife with a mix of surprise and tenderness. That attitude, so far removed from the coldness she had shown in recent years, touched him deeply. He stepped closer to her and with a small gesture asking Ethan to wait a moment led her to a more private corner of the office. It's so good to see you like this, caring, kind to others. It's been a long time since I saw this side of you, he said, eyes glassy. Emily took a deep breath, visibly emotional. Yeah, I've been really harsh, and I was wrong. You were right. There are good people everywhere, love. I can't explain it. It's like this boy awakened. Something in me. When I looked into his eyes, when I saw that honesty, she choked on her words, and Andrew gently finished the thought. He's the age our son would have been. The attorney closed her eye for a moment, feeling the weight of the memory. She swallowed hard, unable to respond right away, and as if time had rewound, she was mentally transported back 10 years. Back then, Emily and Andrew were young dreamers. They had just graduated from law school and opened their very first office. Small, modest, but full of ambition and love. They were inseparable partners in everything in life, in plans and in dreams. Their happiness seemed complete when Emily became pregnant. The baby was very much wanted by both of them, and it felt like the symbol of a new chapter. But that dream turned to tragedy during labor. Severe complications, chaos, despair, and it was Mrs. Margaret, her mother, who delivered the news. "Where's my baby, Mom? I want to see my baby." Emily had begged, tears running down her cheeks. Unfortunately, the baby didn't make it, my love, said Mrs. Margaret coldly. From that moment on, something inside Emily changed. She closed herself off. What was once sweetness turned into rigidity. Generosity gave way to control. Andrew, though devastated, tried to stay kind and upright. He suffered, but still tried to find beauty in the world. Now, back in the present, Emily murmured, "I don't know, but something is telling me we should help this boy, Andrew." The attorney took her hand and replied, firmly, "Then we'll help him, my love." And they did. They took Ethan to an optical store and bought him a new pair of glasses, nice, protective, and high quality. It wasn't just functional. It was far better than the one he had lost. It was worth more than the $1,000 he had returned the day before. Thank you so much," said Ethan, beaming as he tried on the new glasses. His joy was undeniable. After that, the couple took him to a restaurant. The boy, who had never even stepped foot in a place like that, sat down timidly, shoulders hunched, but soon he relaxed. He savored every dish, as if it were a royal banquet. While he ate, he told him his story. He shared how he had been found as a baby inside a dumpster, raised by people living on the streets, but never truly had a family. One by one, those who helped him had disappeared. Hunger, cold, illness, abandonment. "I honestly don't even know how I'm still alive," he said simply with a painful smile. Andrew and Emily looked at each other. The lump in their throats was the same. A respectful silence settled between them as they watched that child endure with so little. After lunch, as they left the restaurant, Ethan placed his hands together in front of him and thanked them sincerely. "Thank you for the clothes and for everything. Really, thank you." He began to walk away, but at that moment, something happened. Andrew and Emily looked at each other as if reading each other's thoughts, and without needing to say a word, they knew exactly what to do. Andrew took 2 steps forward and called out, "Wait, you can't go like this. Living on the streets, you're just a child. You need to be somewhere safe." Ethan turned around, hesitating. "I'll be fine. I'm used to it. My belly's full. I have new glasses, new clothes. I'll be okay." Emily then stepped forward. "Ethan, you need care, especially because of your vision. Why don't you stay with us for a few days? We can find a doctor, see if there's a treatment. You can't go back to the streets like this." Ethan felt his heart race. The thought of sleeping in a real bed, having a blanket, warm food, it was everything he had ever wanted. But insecurity took over. He lowered his head, unsure how to respond. "You've already done so much for me. I don't want to be a burden, really." Andrew knelt down, placing a firm and caring hand on the boy's shoulder. "Ethan, our house is big. You're not a burden. In fact, it might be nice having one more person there." The boy stayed silent for a moment. The doubt still lingered, but hope was starting to take hold. For the first time, he felt that maybe, just maybe, his fate was beginning to change. The wealthy couple insisted, with kind words and warm expressions, and as unlikely as it seemed, little Ethan ended up accepting their invitation. Deep down, he felt that for the first time, someone saw him differently, not as a burden, not as a problem, but as someone who deserved care. And ironically, he felt that even without being able to see. That afternoon, the couple's car pulled up to the grand mansion. As they crossed the front entrance, Ethan stayed silent. The sounds were different. The air smelled soft, and the floor beneath his feet wasn't rough or cracked. It was as if he had stepped into another world. Mrs. Margaret, Emily's mother, was sitting in the living room when the front door opened, and she was stunned by the scene. "But who is this boy?" she asked, shocked. Emily stepped forward and replied calmly, "He's the boy from the wallet, Mom. He returned everything. He was honest. We realized he needed help, and we thought it was best to let him stay here with us for a few days. He's also going to see an eye doctor to check on his vision problem." Mrs. Margaret didn't respond right away. She simply nodded coldly, keeping her eyes fixed on the boy. But later, alone with her daughter, her true opinion surfaced. "What kind of madness is this? Bringing a beggar into our home, Emily?" she asked indignantly. "He's not just a beggar, Mom. He's a child who needs help. I hope your heart doesn't go soft again. You know very well that if you want to stay on top, you have to be tough. I've always been clear about that." But there was something different in Margaret's voice. She stared at Ethan intensely, and when he briefly took off his sunglasses, the woman froze. The boy's irises, they were white, a coloring she had seen before exactly 10 years ago. In that instant, Mrs. Margaret was taken back to the past. She was at the hospital. Emily had just given birth. There was still hope, crying life, but something strange had happened. The doctor, after examining the baby, had taken him aside, away from the mother. "My baby? Is my baby okay? I want to see my baby." Emily had begged from the bed, distraught and crying. Mrs. Margaret, realizing the doctor was taking too long, went over to him. She saw the baby and froze. The newborn had a milky film over both eyes, his irises nearly completely covered. She knew instantly the baby was blind. Without hesitation, she looked the doctor in the eye and said firmly, "You're going to go back in there and say that this baby died. You'll tell her he didn't make it." It was a corrupt doctor, one who had done shady favors for her before. Money wouldn't be a problem. With a thick envelope in hand, he agreed. Minutes later, he returned to Emily's room, his face wearing a false expression of sorrow. "I'm sorry, the baby didn't survive." Andrew, who arrived shortly after, heard the same lie, and Margaret pretended to comfort them both. She told them she would take care of everything, the funeral, the arrangements, but there was no funeral. The truth is that very night, Mrs. Margaret, alone, abandoned the baby in a dumpster. She was filled with hate, with selfishness. "You'll only be a burden. You'll ruin my daughter's life, her career, Andrew's future. They're just getting started, and I won't let you ruin it. I will not have a blind grandchild," she said coldly before leaving the newborn alone, crying among torn bags and scraps of food. But before we continue and reach the ending of this emotional story, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell. Do you think the government should do more to protect people living on the streets? Should there be more support? Let me know in the comments and tell me where you're watching from so I can mark your comment with a beautiful heart. Now back to our story. After abandoning the baby in the trash, Mrs. Margaret molded her daughter with harsh words, hardening her heart. She turned Emily's pain into coldness. And now, 10 years later, she looked at the boy sitting on her couch and recognized the eyes, the white irises, the face, the demeanor. Could it be the same child? No, it can't be. she murmured to herself. While Margaret's mind swirled with doubt, Emily smiled, innocent completely, unaware that she might be standing before her own son, a child ripped from her arms by her own mother, a child she believed to be dead. Slowly, the attorney began to notice the sudden change in her mother. "What can't be, Mom? What's going on?" Margaret forced a smile, stepping back emotionally. "Nothing. Everything's fine." "Really? I just remembered I forgot to take my vitamins today. That's all." She gave Ethan a gentle gesture of affection, but inside, panic consumed every inch of her. She waited for nightfall, when everyone was asleep and the boy was finally resting in a warm, comfortable bed. She crept in silently. With steady hands, she snipped a lock of his hair. The next morning, with the genetic material in hand, she went to a private lab. "I need a DNA test between the sample and that of Emily and Andrew. I need the results yesterday." Meanwhile, the atmosphere in the house had changed. Emily seemed more and more attached to Ethan. Her voice was softer. She laughed at the boy's innocent remarks. Andrew, too, was lighter, smiling. It was as if the boy's presence had filled an old void. Ethan was different as well. His face now carried hope, though deep inside there was still fear. As happy as he was, he wondered what would happen if he had to return to the streets. Will I be able to survive in that world? Again, he thought. Andrew called him over. "Today, we're going to the eye doctor." Emily approached excited. "We've scheduled with one of the best specialists. Let's see what he says." "About your condition, Ethan." Ethan smiled, unsure how to express his gratitude. In the ophthalmologist's office, young Ethan sat between Andrew and Emily, his fingers nervously resting in his lap. The environment was unfamiliar. Clean smells, muffled sounds, gentle voices. When the doctor entered and sat in front of them, silence filled the room. With a professional yet kind demeanor, the doctor began to explain. "Ethan has a condition called congenital cataract." The boy turned his face toward the voice, listening carefully. The doctor continued. "It's a cloudiness that forms in the eyes' lens from birth. This whitish layer prevents light from entering properly, causing blurred vision, or in more severe cases like his, almost complete blindness. Because he went so many years without treatment, his condition has worsened considerably." Andrew held the boy's hand, and the doctor concluded, "But there is treatment. There's a surgery to remove this white layer. I can't guarantee he'll see perfectly like someone with no vision problems, but I can say with confidence he will be able to see. We don't know how much yet, but there is hope." It was as if the world stood still. Ethan brought his hands to his mouth and, unable to hold back, let the tears fall freely down his face. His sobbing was silent, carrying a weight that words could never express. After so many years, believing he would live in darkness forever, a chance had appeared. But then came the part he didn't want to hear. The cost, the surgery, the tests, the medication. The entire process was expensive, very expensive. Still teary-eyed, Ethan mentally stepped back. The heart that moments ago raced, with hope now pounded under the weight of reality. "I'll never be able to pay for that," he murmured, ashamed. But before he could finish the sentence, Andrew placed a hand on his shoulder and said, "We'll cover everything, Ethan." Emily nodded, emotional. "It's the least we can do." Ethan looked toward them, confused. "But why? Why would you do this for me?" Andrew smiled. "Because you deserve it. You're a good, honest boy. You deserve far more than the life you've had on the streets." A little later, alone with Andrew, Emily touched her husband's arm and confessed in a low but firm voice, "And I thought I'd never feel this again. But today, I feel like I can take care of a child again, like I could be a mother." Meanwhile, in another part of the city, Mrs. Margaret trembled as she held an envelope. Inside was a confirmation of her worst fear, the DNA test results. "No, it can't be," Mrs. Margaret whispered, hands shaking. Ethan really was Emily and Andrew's son. She began pacing back and forth, restless, her face pale and her breath shallow. I can't let this brat ruin everything. Andrew and Emily already missed work today to take him to the doctor. That blind brat is going to drain the family's fortune. And if he stays, sooner or later they'll find out what I did. I'll be ruined. And then, as if evil itself took control of her mind, she had a wicked idea. I should have finished this 10 years ago. I won't leave it to chance. I'm going to get rid of that wretched kid for good. With a cold voice, she ordered a grand dinner to be prepared for that night. And among the dishes, she included a special dessert. Individual cups of mousse, sweet and inviting, she set aside one in particular, mixing a white powder into it. Poison, she placed it strategically in the far right corner of the fridge with a clear intention. That one would be Ethan's. But fate was no longer on the side of evil. When Ethan, Andrew, and Emily returned from the doctor's appointment, they were glowing, laughing, smiling, filled with joy after hearing that Ethan had a good chance of regaining his sight. They walked through the front door laughing, still talking about everything the doctor had explained. After a few minutes, Ethan, as always, went to the bathroom. Guided by memory in the shadows he could still see, Emily and Andrew stayed in the living room, chatting with Mrs. Margaret. They were so moved by the last few days that they decided to share something they hadn't yet revealed. "Mom, we need to tell you something," Emily began. "We're thinking about adopting Ethan," Andrew added. Mrs. Margaret forced a smile. "Really? What a wonderful idea. This house could use a child to bring some joy into our days." But inside, she was boiling. "And let's celebrate," she said, trying to sound cheerful. "I prepared a lovely dinner." Meanwhile, something was happening without her realizing it. As Ethan left the bathroom, he felt thirsty. He went to the kitchen and opened the fridge, looking for cold water. That's when he smelled the sweet aroma of the desserts. Curious, he reached out and felt the neatly arranged cups. He touched one. He wanted it, but his conscience spoke louder. "I can't. This isn't my house." Carefully, he put the cup back in the fridge, but in doing so, without knowing it, he rearranged the order of the cups. The one in the corner was no longer the same. Later, during dinner, everyone laughed, ate, and talked. The night was light, full of hope. Emily and Andrew were about to tell Ethan about the adoption, but before they could say anything, Mrs. Margaret stood up with a wide smile and interrupted the moment. "Wait, before anything else, you have to try the dessert. I made it with so much love." She walked to the fridge with confident steps, opened the door, and said, "This one, the one on the far right? This one's for that filthy little beggar." She grabbed the cup, her heart racing with malice, thinking, "He's not my grandson, just a filthy, blind brat, and he's about to get what he deserves." But what Mrs. Margaret didn't know was that fate had already reshuffled her plan, and the cup she held now was no longer the same. Ethan held the dessert cup with both hands, and even without seeing clearly, smelled the sweet, inviting scent. He brought the spoon to his mouth and began eating eagerly with pleasure, like someone who had never tasted something so delicious. "It's amazing," he said, smiling with delight, almost childlike. Mrs. Margaret, with a wicked sparkle in her eyes, replied with false sweetness, "I'm so glad, sweetheart. I made it just for you." And with that sarcastic tone, she picked up her own dessert and began eating as well, watching the boys' every move with obsessive attention. But then, the unexpected happened. While Ethan finished the dessert, smiling without any sign of discomfort, it was Mrs. Margaret who clutched her chest, choking slightly. "But what's happening?" she muttered, staggering. Her breathing became short and erratic. Her hands trembled. Her skin turned pale and clammy. Her mouth started to foam, and her eyes slowly rolled back. Her face turned red, then gray. Her body trembled, as if she were being electrocuted. Mom, what's happening?" Emily screamed in panic, rushing to hold her. Andrew ran over, too, trying to understand. I'm calling an ambulance. But it was too late. Mrs. Margaret collapsed to the floor, foaming at the mouth, fingers twisted, veins bulging in her neck. In her final moments, between one agonized breath and another, she spat out her last words full of hatred. Blind, bastard. Silence fell like a stone over everyone. Shortly after, her body was taken to the coroner. The sudden death demanded answers, and they came quickly. Tests revealed traces of potassium cyanide in her system. The confirmation left Emily in shock. Cyanide? Someone poisoned my mother. But who? Who would do something like that to her? She murmured, dazed. It was the next day, while preparing her mother's clothes for the funeral, that fate revealed everything. In Mrs. Margaret's bedroom, as Emily opened the wardrobe drawer, she came across a small jar. Inside it, a white powder. At first glance, it looked like sugar or salt, but her gut screamed it was cyanide. Next to it, an envelope. With trembling hands, Emily opened it. It was the result of a DNA test. The document listed two familiar names, Emily and Andrew Mitchell, and an unidentified child. Result compatible. Emily's whole. Body went cold. But what came next was even worse. A worn, hardcovered notebook, a diary. Page by page, she read the chilling account written by the woman she had once called mother. It was all there, every detail. The lie at the hospital, the blind baby abandoned in a dumpster, the bribe to the doctor, the plan to manipulate her into thinking only about money, the emotional coldness with which she shaped her own daughter, and finally the plan to poison Ethan upon discovering he was a grandson she herself had thrown away. Emily collapsed to her knees, hugging the diary tightly to her chest, sobbing like a child. Andrew entered the room and rushed to her. What happened? What's going on? She raised her tear-soaked face and whispered, my mother, she was a monster. She told him everything, read him the pages, showed him the test result. With each sentence, Andrew paused until he finally murmured in shock, so, Ethan, he's our son. Even as horror filled their hearts, a light began to glow inside them. It explained everything. The bond, the connection, the way they looked at him, the feeling that had overcome them since the first day. Without wasting a second, they ran. Outside to Ethan, who was sitting in the yard playing with a new toy car. Emily dropped to her knees and hugged him tightly, followed by Andrew. Ethan, sweetheart, you are our son, she said, her voice breaking. The boy didn't understand at first, but little by little, the words began to make sense. I'm your son, he asked, his eyes full of tears. Andrew nodded, also crying. Yes, boy, you always were. And even though it broke her heart, Emily told him everything Mrs. Margaret had done. Ethan then remembered the moment he had rearranged the dessert cups in the fridge. I switched the cups by accident. I didn't mean to. That one was supposed to be for me, he murmured, swallowing hard. Emily pulled him tightly into her arms. What matters is that you're alive, my son, and now no one is ever going to hurt you again. No one. Emily refused to attend her mother's funeral. She doesn't deserve my presence. She dug her own grave, she said firmly. Mrs. Margaret was buried alone in a nameless cemetery with no candles, no goodbyes, no flowers. But across the city, a new life was beginning. Ethan, now under the care of his true parents, began treatment. The surgery was scheduled, and weeks later, he was taken to the operating room. When he woke up, the light bothered him. His eyes ached, but a soft cloth covered his face. Days later, the doctor removed the bandages. Andrew and Emily were by his side. Ethan blinked and saw shapes, silhouettes, outlines. The world was still blurry, but for the first time, it was the world. He looked forward, and in front of him were the two of them. I can see. Is that you? You're beautiful, he said, crying and laughing at the same time. Andrew hugged him, overcome with emotion. My boy. Emily cooped his face in her hands and whispered, "You are the greatest gift of our lives." Time passed. Ethan never went hungry. Again. Never slept on the floor again. He went back to school, played, laughed. He was loved. Emily wanted to make up for the past. Founded an NGO to help children living on the streets, offering shelter, education, and love. Together with Andrew, she had more children, and they all grew up in a home filled with warmth, truth, and dignity. Ethan became the oldest brother, a role model, and even without perfect sight, he learned to see the world with a clarity that only those who have lived in darkness can understand. Comment, vision of love. So, I know you made it to the end of this video, and I'll mark your comment with a beautiful heart. And if Ethan's story moved you, I have another one even more surprising to share. Just click the video that's appearing now on your screen, and I'll tell you everything. Big hugs, and I'll see you in the next emotional story. The next emotional story.